while they present themselves as tough and alone in the world, they very quickly remembered that, you know, you gotta have America in your back pocket. As soon as Iran was like, yeah, you know what, we are gonna strike back, and that's where we're at now. And of course, America, being the daddy in the situation, immediately came to Israel's help. And here's where we're at now.
Welcome to the program. We start this hour with the latest developments in the Middle East. President Biden has promised Israel ironclad United States support amid fears that Iran could launch reprisals for an attack that killed senior Iranians. US media are reporting that an American general will visit Israel on Thursday to discuss Washington's fears. President Biden warned that Iran is threatening to launch a significant attack after Israel struck the Iranian consulate in Syria 10 days ago. Mr. Biden was speaking hours after the Iranian supreme leader again said Israel would be punished for the strike on its consulate. Meanwhile,
what does support mean? Thoughts and prayers? Fuck no. Support means going through Turkey and other mediators to pressure Iran and to tell them not to fucking do it, because we will retaliate in kind. We, as in the United States of America. And also simultaneously reaffirming our commitment to defending Israel unconditionally across the board, even though they are the reasons as to why they are bringing this upon themselves. Any kind of retaliation from Iran is literally all on the hands of the Israeli government. Here's the latest assessment. The latest assessment of the situation here in Israel indicates that Iran will attack in the coming days. The attack is expected to include dozens of launches in the first phase from Iran, Yemen, and Iraq. Regarding Hezbollah and militias in Syria, a question mark. The air defense is on alert from end to end. The coordination with Americans to disrupt an attack at its best. Now, of course, if this is to happen, and I do think that if Iran were to strike Israel in like Tel Aviv or something, this would probably regalvanize the rest of the Western world to not look at Israel and be like, you deserve this. You fucking did this to yourself. Why the fuck do you keep doing this? Go, Hasan, predict something. I love when we are at the fucking precipice of like literally possibly World War III. And chatters still in here are like, oh man, I can't wait to catch Hasan off guard here. Like, we could have nukes being launched and motherfuckers still will be like, yes, Hasan said nukes would not happen. It's like, yo, you're going to die in the next 15 minutes. You really want to fire off a tweet? Is that what you want to do with your last breath? It's so crazy. It's so crazy, man. Like, who gives a shit at that point? Oh, man. Nuclear holocaust is potentially 3 minutes away. I'm going to fire off this like, well, at least Hasan was wrong. Anyway, this is going to be so bad for HasanAbi. Anyway, so you know for a fact their haters would do that. I know. It's just like I keep them alive, I think. Regardless. My point was that originally that Israel has been behaving in a way that is desperate to bring America into a greater battle, and America 100% seemingly is on board with defending Israel unconditionally. Okay? I don't know what will happen in the upcoming days. I do not know what will happen in the upcoming days, chat. I'm not making a prediction. I don't know. This guy said, fuck Palestine, let the towel heads burn. See, but when I hear stuff like that from that banned chatter, okay, I think to myself, maybe we do deserve a wipeout, like a server reset. You know what I mean? My man said towel heads. That's crazy, dog. How are you not embarrassed? Of course. Nice, dude. Following since October 17, 2021, first message in the chat is to be a relentless racist. Very 1940s of Biden to start a world war to defend his genocide of people based on their ethnic group. Anyway. What I was going to say is, I don't know what will happen, but if Iran were to retaliate to Israel, the Western world would take a fucking sigh of relief so they can go back to re-upping their commitment and reaffirming their commitment to Israel. At least not the actual Western world, but like the politicians in the Western world would 100% be like, oh, thank God, Israel are the good guys again. The other side are the bad guys again. Because you cannot strike back against the playground bully. The moment that you strike back, you're worse than the playground bully. Okay? Will this be a moment where the Western politicians, the politicians of the Western world collectively go, yeah, maybe we got to fucking reconsider our support for Israel, considering how Israel knows we offer unconditional support and consistently tries to draw us into a larger conflict with potentially global implications? Or do we look at this, pump the narrative in the media that like Israel is still not deserving of any kind of retaliation, and they are simply the small bean democracy in the Middle East? Oh, damn. Did they get fucking clapped off? Oh my God, they got packed up so fast. God damn. God damn. Either big homie permit himself or he got burned off immediately. Yeah. Bringing Iran into the conversation brings symmetry to the genocide Israel's engaging in, at least in the eyes of the American public. 100%. If Iran aligns with the U.S., wouldn't the support to Israel's genocide stop tomorrow? Wait, what? If Iran aligns with the United States to do what? To fucking kill more Palestinians? What are you saying? Oh. So overall, yes, Iran has demonstrated great restraint in this circumstance as Israel has like fucking struck Iranian targets as well. Now that it's seemingly that restraint is coming to an end, just make no mistake, Iran's retaliation will not be seen in the media, if there is one, no matter what it is. Iran's retaliation in the media will be covered as though it was totally unprompted, and these guys are like barbaric, racist monsters who are just operating on anti-Semitism and anti-American sentiment for no reason whatsoever. And no matter what happens, this will be used as an opportunity to further give Israel more defense. Israel, on the other hand, historically speaking, only fucking responds to force. So I don't know what the hell people are supposed to do. Like, what are other regional actors supposed to do? Israel seemingly is striking out at every single regional operator without a care or consideration for their own citizens and their safety. On the one hand, you're doing straight terror, ethnic cleansing in the Gaza Strip. On the other hand, you're fucking striking Beirut. On the other hand, you're striking Syrian targets. You're striking targets in Iraq. You're striking the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus in Syria. What the fuck do you think you're doing? But of course, no one is going to interpret it with the honesty that Israel deserves right now. Every single potential death that might come from this retaliation is still on the hands of Israel. If there are any deaths at all, there might not be. There likely won't be. First publication at what is this? Effie Trigger, senior anchorman in GLZ Radio. The exercise that simulates an attack in Iran, the Air Force has been holding an attack exercise in cooperation with Cyprus for the past few days to practice long-range attacks. Nice. They're practicing how to strike Iran. How far is IDF military radio? Thank you, Elant News. How far will the Western world go to defend Israel? When will the Western world understand that the unconditional support offered to Israel is causing Israel to behave this way? As a part of increasing preparedness in the defense system for the possibility of an Iranian response, which may also be followed by an Israeli response on Iranian soil, the Air Force is increasing preparations. In recent days, a joint exercise was carried out with the Cypriot army in the airspace of Cyprus, simulating an air operation and attack on a remote target. The exercise was designed to simulate an attack in Iran. And this, after the last 6 months, the Air Force focused less on training and more on war arenas. But now it is returning to investing efforts and resources in the Iranian issue as well. Senior IDF officials say, we know and are prepared to act in any arena and maintain independent abilities to act on our own. We don't rely on anyone. Fucking bullshit. The notion that they are not relying on anyone is ridiculous. They immediately tugged on Daddy's coattails and said, Daddy, please, please, Daddy, I need help. It's fucking bullshit. They still talk this big ass game as though they have the smoke when they do not. It's bullshit. I think what they mean is that they're trying to practice an attack on Iran that won't involve the U.S. if needed. They technically have the capabilities to do this, but would only be able to do so much alone. No, it's fucking bullshit. They're not fucking striking Iran without America's go-ahead. They're not striking Iran without America's help. There's no way that they could do this without American weapons, at least offering them defenses. That's my point. They say this, but it's bullshit. This will turn into an actual regional conflict before the election. Israel wants to galvanize the American public with a terror war narrative that only works if they bring in Iran and every Muslim country into the conversation. They want to create a narrative of Muslim people as a monolith. This is yet again another instance of me saying what I've been saying from the jump, which is that Israel is basically becoming a liability rather than an asset in America's interest in the region. Israel has long overextended and over-leveraged its capabilities in conducting genocidal apartheid regime, and long gone are the days where Israel could have been seen as a military force to be reckoned with, that America desperately needs in its corner and will offer unconditional support to. It's all a matter of what the American government will do and when they will reckon with that reality, or rather, when the voices, the more sane, more reasonable voices in the State Department will be able to convince the rest of the State Department, including Joseph Robinette Brandon, that this is the wrong thing to do.
The Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh says there'll be no change in the group's demands for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, despite the killing of 3 of his sons in an Israeli airstrike. Israeli media is reporting that the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had not been briefed in advance of the attack. This video is believed to show Ismail Haniyeh receiving the news in Qatar, where he lives in exile. Israel has confirmed the strike, describing the sons as Hamas military operatives. He's been actively involved in negotiations to broker a ceasefire with Israel, demanding a permanent end to the fighting and the return of displaced Palestinians to their homes. We'll assess the implications of the killing of his sons in a moment. First, here's President Biden on the threat posed by Iran in the region.
We also want to address the Iranian threat to launch a significant, they're threatening to launch a significant attack on Israel. As I told Prime Minister Netanyahu, our commitment to Israel's security against these threats from Iran and its proxies is ironclad. Let me say it again, ironclad. We're going to do all we can to protect Israel's security.
Let's go live to our Middle East correspondent, Hugo Bachega, who is in Jerusalem. We heard President Biden there, Hugo. There are real fears now over what Iran might do and the possibility of the conflict spreading wider in the region.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that over the last few days, American officials have been saying that they believe this possible Iranian response to that attack in Damascus is a matter of when and not if. And obviously, we don't know what the Iranians are planning to do. They have this network of factions across the region, the so-called axis of resistance, which includes Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, factions in Iraq and Syria. And all those players have already been involved in this conflict. Hezbollah, for example, has been attacking Israel from Lebanon almost every day. But I think the fear here is that Iran may be planning to launch an attack by itself, from its own territory, and that could be involving missiles and drones. And Israeli officials have been saying that they are going to retaliate to any kind of attack coming from Iran. Israeli authorities said they would give a significant response. And I think, in another sign of these concerns, today the Axios website is reporting that the senior U.S. military commander in charge of the Middle East is going to come to Israel to have conversations with the Israeli defense minister and also with military officials. And I think what President Biden was...
Faituk says Iran state news agency IRNA says the time is ripe to punish Israel, adding to the final decision on how to respond had been made. Tasnim news agency, which is close to the IRGC, also says that Iran's heavy punishment for Israel is inevitable. The Iranian state news agency IRNA wrote on Wednesday that the time is ripe. Okay, this is from the Financial Times. U.S. asks China to tell Iran not to retaliate against Israel. The United States asks Turkey, potentially, UAE, and other envoys in between, and Qatar as well, to literally demand that Iran not do anything, to beg Iran not to do anything, amid fears that this would escalate into a broader conflict. Here's a really cool thing that you could have done: telling Israel not to fucking strike at every country in the goddamn region. The fuck do you mean? U.S. asked China to tell Iran not to retaliate against Israel. What is Turkey going to do? No, you don't understand. They're using Turkey as an envoy to communicate with Iran. They're not directly communicating with Iran, but they're basically directly communicating with Iran this way, with this measure. Is China Iran's ally? China has much better relations with Iran than the United States of America does, obviously. China, remember, was the facilitator of the end to the genocide in Yemen, a conflict that was seen as a proxy war between Iran and Saudi Arabia and the UAE. China specifically went to Saudi Arabia and Iran and told them to fucking cut it out, and they successfully did it. The problem here is that, I don't know what the fuck Iran's capabilities are. I don't know if they can actually strike Israel. But even if they were to be able to do so successfully, a lot of civilians will die. And I'm not going to sit here and act like that's perfectly valid and cool and good, okay? Because I'm not some edgy fucking weirdo. I can see that this will draw a much larger, much broader, potentially global fucking war. It's just ridiculous, however, that the United States is asking China to tell Iran not to retaliate against Israel and using regional envoys and not just telling Israel to fucking cut it out. Yes, they have around a dozen different types of medium-range ballistic missiles as well as cruise missiles and drones that can range Israel, and they have them in their thousands. That's what I mean. It's just like the Saudi media still considers Iran a threat to it. Of course, Saudi Arabia still considers Iran. They're within striking distance. Iran could cripple not only Israel, but potentially more severely than Israel. Iran could cripple Saudi oil production. They have struck Saudi oil refineries before. Do you understand? When I say this is a global catastrophe, that's what I mean. A lot of people think, and myself included, my starting point on all conflicts is like, oh, one side has this many people, the other side has this many people. When you kill all the bad guys or when you kill all the guys on one side, the other side wins. That's not how war works. War is about attrition. War is about control over resources. War is about how much you can punish the other side's belligerents. Okay? And there's a major problem for many countries in the West. That problem is resources and comfort. If you live in the lap of luxury in the Western world, if you're a part of the labor aristocracy, you are used to certain comforts. Once those comforts are taken away from you, all of a sudden, you are in an infinitely more volatile situation. That's why Hamas and Palestinian resistance can put up a strong front against Israel, and Israel, on the other hand, is not capable of consistently doing ethnic cleansing for an extended period of time because they, one, rely on too much Western support to continue doing this. They need political cover and they need resources from the West. And two, their people are far too comfortable. And any kind of like trade restrictions, whether it's brought about by the Houthis' military action in the Red Sea or trade restrictions like the ones from Turkey, for example, and many other countries, or even people just feeling some type of way about trading with Israel overall, is going to limit the comforts that people have in Israel proper. All of a sudden, being a democracy of that sort is going to cause problems for you because your people are not ready for shitty living conditions. In the same way that Houthis can withstand a shit ton of military action against them because they just withstood a genocide. That's their norm. That's why when America strikes Houthi targets inside of Yemen, they don't stop. They're like, whatever, dude. What the fuck do you mean? I just survived a man-made famine by Western coalition forces directed, Western coalition forces backed Saudi and UAE militaries. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? My whole point is, Iran doesn't need to nuke America. Iran, as far as I understand, doesn't even have nukes. It might now, I don't know. But regardless, Iran doesn't need to strike America. Iran doesn't need to strike Europe. Iran doesn't even need to strike Israel. Okay? It might, but it doesn't need to. In order to punish the Western world, they could strike Saudi Arabia. They could strike the oil refineries. And when they do that, you are basically crippling the entire fucking Western world and anyone and everyone that relies on said oil. So that's something to consider. Indonesia will normalize ties with Israel in exchange for Tel Aviv's approval of its request to join the OECD following 3 months of discreet negotiations. That's insane. Indonesia denies the report. That would have been wild. This news, which originated from an Israeli source, has been officially denied by the Indonesian government and the Indonesian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You can read it again at the link I attached below. It is better to keep united in supporting Palestine than becoming the victims of Israeli media. The Indonesian position is crystal clear about rejecting Israeli colonialism. Yeah, that would be a wild fucking take if it were true. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think Iran does anything direct. It will most likely be a multifaceted proxy attack, i.e. Hezbollah will take out more Israeli radars in northern Israel with suicide drones, probably as undetected remote submarine drones that might launch from the Red Sea from Yemen. Also maybe increase fire on Syrian militias backed by USA Israel for what it's worth. I mean, I don't know. I suspect that it'll be a little bit more than the pot shots at proxies. I don't think that it'll be just pot shots at proxies. They've done that sort of thing over and over again with no change overall. This time, the conversation is a little bit different, especially judging by how reserved the Iranian axis has been in comparison to Israel's clear violations of numerous red lines. One, the red line of invading Gaza and engaging in ethnic cleansing. Two, the red line of striking Beirut. And three, the red line of striking Damascus, an Iranian embassy compound in Damascus. It's like shocking that Iran hasn't done more thus far, in my opinion. Iran has fostered armed groups over the past 45 years that spurred by the war on the Gaza Strip have mobilized towards similar goals, diminish Israeli power and confronting Israel's closest ally, the U.S. Here's a look at the most prominent groups. Anyway. One of the problems for Iran is that they do not respond and they lose power or the deterrence that their missiles have essentially, if you do nothing to follow through on what you're saying, deterrence means nothing. There's also that too. Like, if you set red lines and then don't follow up when people cross them, especially when your enemy is obviously your enemy has demonstrated time and time again that it only responds to force. Maybe we shall see. This was technically seen as an attack on Iran's soil. More likely some form of direct Iranian attack, either on Israel directly or an Israeli embassy consulate in the region is more likely. Yeah. That's what I think too. I don't think they'll strike Tel Aviv or something, but I suspect they'll probably like try to wipe out like a Israeli embassy or some shit in the region. I just don't know. I don't know what anyone is supposed to do in this situation when America is on your side and defending you unconditionally, and you are literally belligerently fucking lashing out at every other country in the region always and forever without no end in sight. Why the fuck? What are people supposed to do? Are they supposed to sit back and take it? Just like the Palestinian state, just like the Palestinian population. What the fuck are they supposed to do? Do you think every Palestinian child wants to fucking rise up in arms and fight? No, they just want to survive. They want to live. They want to live normal lives. Okay? They want what everyone has, a life of dignity, a top of the hour without a 3-minute ad break. They want to no longer see the 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour. This is, this is a normal want from so many people. It's a normal desire. That's the future many of you dream of, and you don't even realize it, but it's achievable by subscribing for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. That future can be your now, your present, as long as you subscribe for $5 or for free. Will to Axe, thank you for the 10 community gift the subs, allowing 10 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Here's the 3-minute ad break. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. I spoke to the Israeli Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, today to reiterate the ironclad U.S. support for Israel's defense in the face of growing threats from Iran and its regional proxies. Israel can count on full U.S. support to defend Israel. We are only on Israel's side because we need it as a bulwark against Iran and its axis of anti-America. I don't think we genuinely support the genocide of Palestine and are the bad guy here, Hasan. We are absolutely the bad guy here. Why are you always... You're a bad guy. Get better takes right now. I order you. Okay? The fuck do you mean? Oh, we're just like... We're just forced to be on the side of genocide. But our intentions are pure is so stupid, dude. What the fuck do you mean? Last time we were the good guys was in World War II. And then what did we do? We betrayed our fucking allies and immediately changed course, shifted our attention to the much greater evil, and then aligned with the same bad guys we defeated. It's ridiculous. Anyway. It's crazy. Israel is beyond belligerent. They bomb every nearby state with impunity. I don't see a situation short of nuclear where the U.S. use any leverage against Israel. We let them do everything they want. They bomb everyone and everything, even without notifying the Pentagon. There's a diplomatic solution, but the U.S. won't quarter it if all it means is more brown people die. Yes. U.S. Embassy in Israel has urged American citizens to stay in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Beersheba areas amid the anticipated Iranian response. The U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem reminds U.S. citizens of the continued need for caution and increased personal security awareness as security incidents often take place without warning. Security environment remains complex and can change quickly depending on the political situation of recent events. Out of an abundance of caution, U.S. government employees and their family members are restricted from personal travel outside of Greater Tel Aviv, including Herzliya, Netanya, and even Yehuda, Jerusalem, and Be'er Sheva areas until further notice. U.S. government personnel are authorized to transit between these three areas for personal travel.
And of course, we begin here with...
Was trying to say is that despite the differences, between the Americans and the Israelis over the Israeli conduct in the war in Gaza, and we've seen in the last few.
By the way, that statement from the embassy implies that America doesn't believe that Tel Aviv will be struck. For the record, like. If they thought if they thought that there was a likelihood that Iran would retaliate to Tel Aviv, they would be fucking very quickly removing everyone, all the American citizens, all the government employees from the region. Shut up. Yes, I said Tel Aviv because I'm fucking Turkish and W's and V's I fuck up sometimes. Yes, I think because most IDF bases are located in the Negev Desert, the Galilee, and the Golan Heights. Counterpoint to World War II take, we couldn't even end World War II without fucking sending Japan back in the Stone Age. We were not the good guys there. I mean, yeah, we did some fucked up shit. What do you mean when you said America allied itself with those it defeated after World War II? Exactly what you think I mean. America aligned with fascists in every European country in Western Europe and in an effort to end the much larger threat of communism. We align with fascists all around the world, and we have never stopped aligning with fascists all around the world. Didn't Soviets do the same? Google Operation also Aviakim. I'm not talking about paperclip, big dog. I'm not talking about paperclip, which is what you're talking about on the other end, on the Soviet end. Okay? I use my words very carefully. I'm not talking about Operation Paperclip. I'm talking about Gladio. I'm talking about NATO. I'm talking about America aligning with fascists in every European country, specifically to purge all of the Western European countries from the scourge of communism, trade unionism, social democracy, and anything that they ostensibly consider to be, you know, even remotely center left. It is funny that you're still, your one thing is always like Molotov-Ribbentrop, as though the West didn't do appeasement, and the Soviet version of the fucking Soviet version of paperclip. That's not what this is about. I'm sorry, but there's a difference between hiring scientists to do stuff and to give power positions to Nazis, get better chatter. Yeah, no, they won't get better, because the reality is, in order to defend the West, you have to be a little bit of a fascist, okay? That's why while the Nazis lost the war, fascism did win. And we're living in that era now. The State Department gives no more fucks about its employees in Israel than Israel does about its employees in every embassy in the world. No, that's not true. Americans do hold American employees to a higher position than, like, no, they would evacuate. They have in the past. That's why I'm saying it's probably not likely that they will strike Tel Aviv, according to the American assessment. If they were, they would be calling for emergency evacuation instantly.
Few days, the level of frustration from America with Israel, with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. President Biden is saying that these two countries remain very strong allies, and that any kind of Iranian attack on Israel would trigger an American reaction.
If we move now to that attack that killed the three sons of Hamas's political leader, what more do we know about the attack itself?
Yeah, so Ismail Hania is saying that this was a political assassination, and that his reaction was that Israel would be delusional to think that this would change the position of Hamas in these ceasefire negotiations. I think the key context here to this attack.
Yeah, Israel also wiped out this dude's sons and grandchildren. Literally, I think either this morning or last night.
This happened as, we're waiting to hear from Hamas whether they're going to accept, the ceasefire proposal that was put forward after those mediated negotiations in Cairo.
I genuinely agree with most of your takes. No, you don't, dude. You don't. You're like a fucking lighthearted troll. Either you're doing this as a meme, you're doing this for attention, or you're doing this because you want to come across as reasonable as possible and show everyone after you clip my reaction to what you have to say to be like, you don't understand. Look at how unreasonable this guy is. I'm just simply asking reasonable questions, because they don't know that you literally have consistently over the course of the past couple of months always found some way to defend Israel's genocidal regime. Okay? I generally agree with most of your takes, but how do you not find it hard to condemn our leadership so strongly? Because I do know a lot of people in the State Department who do want what's best for us, so the cognitive dissonance is hard. What the fuck do you mean? I don't give a shit what the cognitive dissonance looks like, okay? The fuck are you talking about? Who gives a fuck about your State Department friends? They should do their very best to stop America's unconditional support to Israel's genocide. That is the best thing to do for America's future, not just Israel's future, not just for the future of the Palestinians that remain, but America's future as well. That's precisely the reason why there are plenty of people in the State Department who don't agree with the Brandon regime right now. Also, fuck your friends.
And at the heart of this proposal is a 6-week ceasefire in the conflict in Gaza, and this would see Hamas releasing 40 hostages who are being held in Gaza in return for 900 Palestinians who are now being held in Israeli jails. But many obstacles remain, because it seems that Hamas has told negotiators that it doesn't have 40 hostages who fit the criteria that has been set up in this proposal. Female soldiers, elderly people who are sick, and it seems that there's some differences as well related to the identity of the prisoners who are going to be released. So we're still waiting to hear from Hamas, but I think Hamas has been sticking with its demand that any kind of ceasefire in Gaza should be permanent, because a senior Hamas officials said that they believe that any kind of temporary ceasefire would mean that once the hostages are out, the Israelis may return to Gaza to finish the job and try to destroy.
I think a lot of the Israeli hostages are now dead, by the way. Either dead or impossible to reach as it stands currently. They're saying that they can't reach them under current conditions, but I think it's likely that they are dead due to the bombing, the relentless bombing. That's why they said they can't bring 40 that fits the standards that Israel has for the hostages. Hamas already said 90 of the 134 are dead. Yeah. Oh, there was some more stuff I want to talk about with respect to Israel. Hold on.
Received this afternoon.
Here is more on the Iranian retaliation.
States watching closely over a possible retaliatory Iranian attack
Rum
against
and laughs.
Israel.
Thank you for the 5 gifted
subs. The war
subs.
in the region. Sources familiar with intelligence.
Simply don't take hostages then? Yeah, except the real fucking ask here should be simply don't run an apartheid state that's genocidal in nature until people feel like they have no other options or no other way out. Yeah, dude, I think so too. I think taking hostages is fucked up. I agree with you. Okay. Do you have that same fucking smoke for the Israeli apartheid? Terrorist supporting scum? Wait, do you think I support the terrorist state of Israel or the terrorist state of the United States of America? I do not. Let me clarify once again. I do not support the Israeli apartheid regime or its genocidal actions, nor do I support the American genocidal actions. That's weird that you said I'm a terrorist supporting scum. Huh. It's okay. Maybe English is not your first language and you misunderstood my point. I hope you understand now that I've clarified it. Remember the girl with her legs broken, raped and beaten? I don't know what you're talking about, but I suspect you're talking about the girl who was like bloodied in their nether regions. Is that what you're talking about? I mean, she died. She got killed. Why is it that, I don't know if you know something that I don't know. There is one first-hand account of sexual assault. Is from someone who was taken hostage and was released. So far. There could be more. Now, of course, if you're so desperate to talk about October 7, one must remember October 6 and the days before. You did not answer my question about Israel's apartheid. You did not answer my question about Israel's apartheid and immediately went to, she was at a concert and they raped and killed her. Once again, Do you think Israel's apartheid is right? I can condemn rapes, and I have, and I condemn the violence of October 7. But I also understand that that violence does not occur in a vacuum. Now that I've answered your question, I hope you can answer mine. Do you think Israel has the right to maintain an apartheid regime? There are Muslims in the IDF. Bro, I swear to God, this has got to be a Hasbara bot. He's not responding to anything. He's just like, just talking points, spamming it like a fucking NPC, like a bot that's broken. My boy is just an oblivion NPC for the Israeli apartheid. Holy shit. There are Muslims in the IDF, NPCs against rape. If you were actually an NPC against rape, you would be condemning the Israeli state for the many sexual assaults that have occurred systematically under its hostages, the Palestinian hostages that it has, that it fucking keeps consistently increasing the ranks of. Long live the Jewish people. Yes, long live the Jewish people. This is true. I don't have any issues with Jewish people. You, on the other hand, seemingly want to put Jewish people in a threatening position because you are falsely equating Judaism with the defense of a genocidal apartheid regime such as the Zionist Israeli regime. None of your buzzwords will work here. Judaism and Jewish people have nothing to do with Israel. Okay? You can desperately try to make this association, but in my opinion, and in the minds of many others who now do see the truth about Israel's actions, you are basically doing, ISIS is in the right, they're Muslim, long live Islam. ISIS is doing what it's doing for Islam. That's basically what you're saying. It's disgusting. ISIS has nothing to do with Islam, and you will find it very hard to find a single fucking Muslim, especially in the Western world or even in the region, that defends ISIS's actions. Israel behaves identically to ISIS, trying to provide cover for what their actions are. I never said anything about ISIS. I'm saying it. ISIS and Israel operate in the exact same way. Okay? ISIS and Israel operate in the exact same way. They LARP as though they are doing this for a religious purpose, and they end up killing a whole bunch of people and engage in ethnic cleansing. Israel has the same level of representation for Judaism that ISIS has for Islam, which is to say, none at all. The only difference, however, is that for far too long, the Western world has offered so much cover to Israel that many Israel defenders feel like it is not only shameful to tie the association with Zionism to Judaism, but instead think that this provides ample cover for the actions of Zionists and specifically the Israeli government, the IDF. This has to be a bot. No actual person is this obtuse. No, I think that those who still defend Israel after 30,000+ dead are this fucking stupid. They do come across like they are a bot because they're this stupid. He thinks his cause is just. He thinks he's really sticking it to the man. What? That's ridiculously reductive to say that. Saying that it's related isn't the same as saying that all of them are like that. Wait, what? We can say that they bastardize the religion and use it as a weapon, but saying that they're wholly unrelated completely and entirely is simply a historically untrue and disingenuous. They use it loosely as a weapon, but that's all they do with it. What are you talking about? Israel's actions are completely antithetical to Judaism as a religion or even Jewish culture. It's fucking bullshit. Just like ISIS's actions are completely antithetical to Islam. Imagine some of the kidnapped don't like the Israeli government if they were still kidnapped. Yeah, now fucking equate that to maybe people that are not exactly happy about Hamas's governance that got fucking lasered by the Israeli entity. Shut the fuck up. You have no argument here. Everything you say about Hamas or the Palestinian resistance or Palestinian people is tenfold utilized against Israel. Okay? People's political opinions are completely irrelevant in this. The only factor at play here is that you think Israelis are humans, as do I, by the way, but you think Palestinians are not. Palestinians are simply a casualty of war. Israelis, on the other hand, are real people with lives, dreams. Palestinians do not have lives nor dreams in your mindset. That is why you refuse to reckon with 30,000 plus dead. 2/3 are women and children. This doesn't even include the non-enemy combatant men that Israel has killed. I don't think Hamas are humans. Well, guess what? I still think the Israeli military are human beings. They have dehumanized Palestinians for far too long and have lost their humanity, and yet they're still human beings. And much like, because they are still human beings, for the record, the Israeli government, like I said, the Israeli government are still operated by humans. They should go to fucking jail forever. Okay? They should be tried in an international tribunal. If there was any karmic justice, they would go the way of the Nuremberg trials, as they are operating identically to the Nazis. Okay? I don't think Hamas are humans. Yeah, I know, bro. I know. I get it. Yes. You have been fucking laser beamed with a metric ton of propaganda. Everyone is Hamas. Hamas aren't humans. And they're only operating on just anti-Jewish hate. I get it. I understand it. It's propaganda. You believe it. That's what you believe. That's the reason why you can justify an apartheid state without ever recognizing that it's an apartheid state. I know. I've said my piece. No, you didn't. And you didn't provide anything that we haven't heard a million times over. Brother, he does not understand those mighty words you use, wasted energy. I mean, it doesn't matter. Even if he doesn't understand it, there might be someone who's in the fucking precipice of understanding it that might understand it now. Or at least understand it better. I can't believe people are okay saying shit like this. It's because they have anonymity and they're heavily propagandized. So they just can't. They can't escape it. They're deluded. But remember, when I fucking talk to a person in the chat and I pull them up and I'm yelling at them or whatever, I'm not specifically trying to change that one individual's mind. If I can, then that's great. Okay? But it's for everybody else that's listening. Wow, I'm not English first language, lol. Yeah, okay. I don't know what that has to do with anything now, but... yeah. That guy supports a dairy farm in Walking Dead Season 1, Episode 2. Yeah. I don't think people understand how much people's brains are broken by propaganda. Okay? Let's continue.
Intelligence on the matter are saying the U.S. believes a strike could happen, quote, in the coming days. Now, that intel has been shared with lawmakers, detailing that Iran could use drones and missiles to attack, quote, regional assets in Israel. Now, all of this following an Israeli airstrike in Syria last week that killed a top commander in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, along with 6 other officers at a consulate in Damascus. Iran's supreme leader vowing revenge shortly after that attack. President Biden addressing the threat at a press conference yesterday, saying that the U.S. will do all it can to protect Israel's security. Israel's defense minister echoing a similar sentiment, saying that the country will defend itself no matter who attacks.
It's crazy that they keep striking like relentlessly, not just like doing ethnic cleansing to the Palestinian population, but just striking at anyone and everyone in the region. And then like when people go, hey man, you need to stop, like we're gonna fucking hit back, they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. We'll defend ourselves. We have a right to defend ourselves. It's like, bitch, what do you mean? Defend yourself from what? If you If Israelis genuinely understood the situation in front of them, they would defend themselves by overtaking by force their current war cabinet and stopping the Israeli apartheid and its violent actions. Okay? Obviously, it'll never happen because many people in Israel feel exactly the same way that that fucking Hasbara bot does, which is that, like, these guys cannot be reasoned with. They are just angry, not because we've done an apartheid to them. The rest of the world is anti-Semitic. Everyone is anti-Semitic. They're fucking attacking Israel, the only Jewish state. It needs to exist, or else a Holocaust 2 will happen. You know? That's why we have to kill as many Palestinian babies as possible. People don't understand that this is the fucking same principle behind Nazi propaganda. It's not like the Nazis didn't look for a fucking fake reason as to why they were operating in the way that they did. It's not like they were like, Jews are awesome, but we still need to kill them. They were like, yeah, no, they're fucking devil spawn and they're mischievous and they're sneaky and they have all the gold. Like, they made up reasons for why they did the Holocaust, okay? But of course, many Israelis don't understand that they are now victim to the same kind of fascist propaganda that literally eviscerated and genocided their fucking forefathers. They don't get it. It's the same exact dehumanization that they apply on a regular basis to justify the ethnic cleansing in Gaza. It's the same exact dehumanization and vilification that justifies the apartheid regime. Literally, to a fucking T. It's fascism through and through. Yeah, sure, the crosshairs are on someone else, and the perpetrators are the descendants of are those who were once victim to the fascist propaganda. But that's precisely what it is.
Or where. Joining me right now is the senior director at the Center on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Bradley Bowen. Thank you so much for being here with us on a very, very busy day. So, look, let's jump right into this, okay? It does appear that Iran might have some
But I've seen so much shit about Hamas murdering people. What the fuck about that? Bro, we've already described this a million times over, okay? Yes. Hamas did atrocities on October 7th. They are not the perfect victim, but they don't have to be. They are still a victim of an apartheid regime. The Palestinian resistance is still very much a victim and born out of the conditions that Israel, the much more powerful entity in the region, the colonial entity in the region, has created for the Palestinian population. Hamas is just a name. Hamas is just an idea. It is understandable that people are, of course, going to fight back when they are pushed into a fucking corner. Okay? You do not criticize the resistance groups in the Warsaw Ghetto. The resistance groups in the Warsaw Ghetto are not good because they were communist, okay? Even though they were, and I love that, sure. But they were good because they were resisting against a genocide. Okay? I do not care about their own personal, I don't care about their own day-to-day operations or what they fucking say. In this circumstance, there is a much graver threat, and that threat is ethnic cleansing and displacement. That's it. Of course, people are going to want to resist against colonialization. Of course, people are going to want to resist. Emancipation is an honest yearning that every human being has.
Right, if they want to retaliate against Israel. But when you're looking at all of these, in the realm of reality here, do you think, by your assessment, that a retaliatory strike would include a direct strike in Israeli homeland?
I do think that's possible. I think we could also see strikes against U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria. I think you could see Iranian-backed strikes against softer targets around the world, against civilians, against Israeli embassies or consulates. And I think Israel, out of due diligence, has to be prepared for all of that. And some in Israel, frankly, would not be entirely upset if they tried to attack Israel directly from Iran, because that would give them the opportunity that many believe is necessary to hit back at the puppet master that has been orchestrating all these terror proxy puppet attacks for against Israel for so long.
Well, yeah, so let's elaborate a little bit on that. Let's talk about these proxies, right? So do you think that if and when this retaliatory strike were to happen, that Iran would be more likely to use some of its proxy groups like Hezbollah or even Shia militants? Or do you think that you might actually see the Revolutionary Guard do it themselves?
It's a great question. That's essentially been, at risk of oversimplification, the grand strategy of the Islamic Republic of Iran, I would argue, for the last 40 years. They've used these terror proxies.
By the way, FDD is another like State Department cutout, obviously Foundation for Defense of Democracies. They're defending democracies. They're very knowledgeable on Iranian capability. So of course I rely on a lot of their work in general, and I'm sure Elint News could attest to that as well if he's in the chat still. But overall, you have to understand that their positioning is absolutely going to be unconditional defense of Israel and portraying Iran as the big bad no matter what.
Proxies to advance their foreign policy, to attack the United States, our forces, to Israel and others, while displacing the counterpunches and the consequences onto others. Usually they're Arab proxies. And it's gone quite swimmingly for Iran because the puppet master in Tehran has avoided the consequences. But every now and then, Israel has to say enough is enough. And every now and then, the U.S. has to say enough and enough is enough. Between October 17th and February 4th,
it's important to consider all sides of a complex situation to form a well-rounded understanding. Perhaps you and we are all influenced by the media and narratives we're exposed to. Yeah, well, if you noticed, I cover all aspects of this war, or rather ethnic cleansing campaign. So that's a cop-out to say that I might be wrong. Sure, I might be. But if you have a position on this, you should have a position on this, rather, which is that genocide is bad and wrong, and Israel is conducting an ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza. And even before this ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza, Israel was always an apartheid regime. It's not that complex when you think about it. The morality of it is not that complex. Pretty black and white, as a matter of fact. There's no world in which you would ever fucking both sides this if the roles were reversed. Okay? If an Islamic colony was occupying a region where millions of Jews lived and they forcibly pushed away 750,000 Jews from their ancestral homelands and then turned around and trapped them in an open-air prison and denied them their fucking basic human rights, put them under 24/7 surveillance, and executed tens of thousands of them over the course of the past 6 months, you'd be like, that's the Holocaust. What the fuck are we doing? We've been there before. There's no both sizing that situation. And I don't know about that. That'd be your average 30s European. Exactly. And we don't both sides the Holocaust. The only people that try to both sides the Holocaust are fucking Nazis that are too embarrassed, or at least tactically refusing to acknowledge that they're literal fucking neo-Nazis. That's the whole point. That's why I'm using this argument. A role reversal very quickly shows you the situation. Many Americans and many Westerners are conditioned to not see Muslims and Arabs as human beings. So I have to fucking flip the script a little bit so they understand, like, oh shit, it would be pretty devastating if it was Jews that were, victims of mass slaughter like they were during the Holocaust. Look at these fucking random little dildos trying to fucking sneak in their stupid little fascist Nazi fucking takes. I hate the Israeli government because they're Nazis, because they're fascists. So when you turn around and try to fucking sneak in like, oh, we need a new Adolf Hitler, of course you're going to get clapped, you stupid Nazi fuck. It's so dumb. These guys think like, oh yeah, this is a great opportunity. Ooh, great opportunity for me to be like, oh yeah, Adolf Hitler. Hey, dumb fuck. They're so fucking brain broken that they do not think that there is like consistent principles here at play. They just don't understand it. They're in the most liberal brain broken way possible, reacting simply to the aesthetics. I do not oppose the state of Israel because they are a Jewish state. I oppose the state of Israel because it is an apartheid state.
We saw 165 attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria, and we only responded 9 times.
Dumb
and
fuck.
then on January 28th, we saw 3 American service members killed in Jordan. The Biden administration responded with more serious attacks, about 85 in Iraq and Syria, and killed the leader of Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq. You know what happened after that? Not a single Iranian-backed attack on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria. So if you look at the history here, going back to the Reagan era, Iran backs down when they face resolute military force, and they view weakness as an invitation for additional aggression.
Oh, that is a fascinating assessment, especially because you hear all the time that because
As an anti-Zionist Jew, the poll atmosphere is fucking insufferable between the Zionists and the literal Jake Shields-style Nazis. I appreciate you and your takes on helping educate me. One of my best friends is Muslim, and you help me be a better friend to him. Yeah, there's no fucking room for dumb fuck Nazis in here. Dumb fuck fascists who are in defense of Israel, or dumb fuck fascists who are in defense of Hitler. It's just so silly to even say. Anyway. Look at this guy, given the complexity. Bro, stop saying given the complexity without, that's just such a cowardly stance. Do you recognize Israel's an apartheid state or not? There is no complexity on that front.
because of these proxies, Iran is able to have some kind of strategic patience
It's so complex,
as they move forward. Let's talk a little bit about last week. Iran's foreign minister said that Israel would be punished and that America needs to be held accountable. The Pentagon confirming last week that Israel was behind that attack in Damascus. Do you think that the U.S. needs to be concerned here and taking that as a threat?
I think the U.S. should absolutely be concerned about attacks on our forces in the region. We could see attacks here in our homeland. It's not the first time Iran has tried to threaten Americans or others here in our homeland. You know, this is a radical regime posing as a nation state. And, you know, this is the most significant strike at the puppet masters, arguably, since the Qasem Soleimani strike during the Trump administration. And they responded to that by sending more than a dozen ballistic missiles at 2 bases in northern Iraq, giving 100 Americans or more traumatic brain injury. So I think you have to assume there's going to be a strong attack, a response by the Iranians. And if Israel and the United States respond weakly, we'll simply see more of the same from Iran.
All right, Bradley Bowman, I can't thank you enough for your very important assessment of this, and I know we'll be talking to you in the days and weeks to come. Thank you for your time. I want to bring our big story now to our panel. So joining us today is our ABC News contributor and op-ed columnist for the LA Times, LZ Granderson, ABC News contributor and president of Next Gen America, Christina Cincin-Ramirez, ABC News contributor and former New York Congressman John Katko, and ABC News national security and defense analyst Mick Mulroy. So Mick, here, let's jump in. First, I want to make sure that you have a chance to respond to some of those things that we heard there from Bradley, and then also if you can give us an assessment of how you think Iran might possibly move forward.
Okay, I think Bradley was spot on that analysis. I think Iran has to respond. The question will be, does they respond from Iran? They do have cruise missiles that can reach. I think that's less likely. They'll probably use the proxy forces you all talked about, including Hezbollah and IRGC, so the Iranians in southern Lebanon and potentially Syria. They'll probably use rockets, missiles, and the Shahed drones, so they'll try to swarm and overwhelm the defenses.
Is it just fear-mongering? Has Iran said anything more than they're pissed? No, it's not fear-mongering. No. Iran has said that they will retaliate and punish Israel for its actions against Iran. That part is definitely real. I don't think it's crazy to think that Iran may retaliate. First time chatter just came in asking for gaming. Let's go.
Systems in Israel, potentially striking Israeli military sites. If it's significant, it gets through. This could significantly escalate this conflict. I do believe Israel will take the opportunity to strike inside Iran and potentially take out some of these suspected nuclear sites. So this has a very strong chance of escalating into a regional conflict, and one in which the United States could be pulled into, depending on what happens in response to the response.
Right, and that is a tremendous concern here on the home front, and we know that this will play out politically as well. So, Christina, to you, what would retaliatory strikes on Israel and then the U.S.'s response there mean for Biden's waning support for Israel when it comes to calls for a ceasefire with Hamas?
He'll find support for Israel real quick, okay? Real fucking quick.
Well, I think this puts the Biden administration in a challenging position because there is a growing call for a ceasefire, and it makes it harder to do that when there is a growing, escalating conflict in the region. So I think that the Biden administration, we know, has been doing everything behind the scenes to try and make sure that this war did not expand. And so I think that we'll have to see what happens. But the Biden administration has made clear that they plan on standing with Israel. But I think here at home, it will be a hard position the longer this conflict continues in Gaza.
It certainly will. And John, to you, look, if Iran attacks Israel directly, what then is the U.S. responsibility there? Is our national security under threat at that point?
I think it is, but I think the most fundamental observation that Bradley made was that they only understand strength. Bad guys only understand strength. And so whatever the response is, if there's an attack.
That's true. You know, he's right. Bad guys only understand fucking force, which is why Israel only understands force. Israel only fucking backs down when it is put into an uncomfortable situation by actors in the region that are actually showing that they are willing to fucking take defensive measures. Of course, bad guys in his mind is, you know, non-state aligned actors, non-US state aligned actors here. But yeah, Israel has taught everyone in the fucking region that they will never stop. They will only stop if they feel a threat, even if they feel like, you know, someone will actually fucking retaliate in kind.
It will be a very strong response. And Israel, quite frankly, has been looking for an excuse to go after Iran directly at the appropriate time.
Oh, yeah, dude. Israel's been looking for an excuse. Israel has been looking desperately to try to bring fucking America into the to play a larger role in the region. Okay, that's what Israel's looking for. Israel does not fucking have the capacity to handle the smoke. Okay, fucking bullshit. Israel's been looking for an excuse.
Time to take out their nuclear
Dumb
capabilities. They know where they are, and they know what they need to do to take them out. And if Iran is stupid enough to attack Israel directly, you're going to see a very major response from Israel and possibly the United States.
Right, the response to the response, as Mick pointed out there. So, LZ, to you, I just want to share some reporting that came in, LZ, that Secretary Antony Blinken has been on what they're calling a diplomatic blitz here, LZ, for like the last 24 hours, saying that he's made a series of calls to foreign counterparts, Turkey, China, Saudi Arabia, to make clear that...
Yeah, for the record, if Israel could fucking handle the smoke, they wouldn't be begging America to talk to all of the other fucking regional actors to get them to tell Iran, like, please don't do this, please don't do this, please don't do this. If you do this, we have to respond. If you do this, we have to respond.
Escalation is not in anyone's interest. LZ, what is your assessment here of how U.S. officials are trying to, if you can, thwart this response from Iran?
We're in the, critical hour here, if you really look at the larger picture, because, a proxy war doesn't necessarily mean the United States has boots on the ground. But let's face it, those are our weapons. And the conversation regarding our weapons are also shaping our domestic policies, and it's shaping the general election going forward for the next 4 years. And so this idea that we're sort of letting Israel handle this really isn't accurate. We're very much a part of this. We're going to have about 1,000 troops in a temporary pier to give aid to the people of Gaza about 3 miles offshore. That exposes us even more to a possible conflict and getting deeper into this battle. And so, I'm really hoping that diplomacy comes through, because quite obviously, if Israel is attacked directly, the United States will be more involved. And we have 1,000, men and women that are going to be on the pier to give aid who are going to be exposed even further.
Right off the coast there. LZ, Christina, John, and Meg, our thanks to all of you.
How long after Iran gets in the war with Israel, the U.S. fully drops Ukraine? I mean,